Oh, good morning, everyone. This is Tech Sergeant T once again. Uh, I just wanted to take a few minutes this morning and tell maybe a little story on myself. Um, I don't know how many of you out there are drinkers. I'm not a drinker now, and for a short period of time, I was. When I was in Pakistan, um, I drank more than a little. That was a kind of a place that you needed a little reinforcement just to keep your sanity. And there was, that was one of our main activities, shall we say. There wasn't much else to do there. And then after I left Pakistan and I went to Berlin, what a difference. I mean, Berlin's a party town. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the circumstances during the Cold War, but Russia and the United States, the Soviet Union, they called it, was quite in opposition to the United States. And after World War II, they kind of divided Germany up. We had East Germany and West Germany. East Germany was the Soviet side of the country, and West Germany was the Allied side, which was England, France, and the United States. Berlin was not on the border. Berlin was 111 miles into East Germany, so we were completely surrounded. And West Berlin was divided up the same way as West Germany. We had the British sector on the north, and then the French sector, and then the American sector in the south. And when I'd go out and partying a little bit, I typically went to the British sector, partly because the British troops were paid with script, and script couldn't be exchanged for marks, so you didn't run into as many soldiers downtown in the British sector as you did in the American sector. And the American sector was mostly U.S. Army, and I come to find out that I think that Army troops liked fighting almost as much as drinking. So you go to a Army bar, as it were, in the southern sector, and it's more than likely you're gonna, see some action, as it were. Well, I had a gentleman I worked with, another sergeant named Ray, we'll call him Ray, who was Hispanic. He was from Houston, Texas. One night he decided he was going to teach me how to drink tequila. So having one of the few cars in the squadron, I was volunteered to, be transportation rather than trying to take the U-Bahn, the subway, or the bus all the way up there. So we went up to one of our favorite bars there in the British sector, and he taught me the old, I guess they call it the lick, shoot, and suck method. It's where you lick your hand and you put the salt on it. You hold the line between your finger and your thumb, and so you lick off the salt and throw down the tequila and then bite into the lime, and it kind of softens the effect, shall we say, of the tequila. And so we started drinking up there in the northern sector and worked our way down to the south. Now our barracks, which is a loose term because we're actually some nice rooms, we're at the Tempelhof Flughafen, which was a main airport during World War II. It was actually built by Adolf Hitler and Albert Speer, one of his architects. It was still being used. It survived World War II. It was a huge building. It was a mile long from one end to the other. It was a big curved building. We had one half, and the German customs had the other half. And we had some nice rooms in there. And right across the street was the Platz der Luftbrücke, which is commemorated the Berlin airlift, which I'll tell you more about that later. And across the street from the Platz der Luftbrücke was the Trocadero. It was a little Air Force GI bar that usually the last stop on the way back to the barracks. And so we stopped in there, to finish up for the night. And we were pretty well wasted by the time we got there. And it's a nice little bar, and like most bars, it wasn't too bright, too well lit. And so we'd gotten our salt, and we'd gotten our lime, and we'd gotten our tequila, and lick and shake, and then lick it off and take the tequila and bite into the lime. And after a few drinks, my tongue started getting really irritated, almost swollen. Hardly, talk well. It turns out that the young lady behind the bar in the dark had given us a pepper shaker instead of a salt shaker. And we'd been, had so many drinks already, we didn't quite realize it at first. So we were using pepper instead of salt as our first step in that process. Oh boy. That's one of the reasons I think I gave up drinking. There was some religious reasons, but there was also some, I think, reasons of self-preservation. I had more than one incident where I'd probably been quite irresponsible while I was drinking. But, yeah, young and stupid, right? Yeah, my little Volkswagen Beetle, I'll have to tell you about that sometime. It was when I bought there. I always find it interesting because we call Volkswagens, the little bugs, or beetles. The Germans call them Käfer. Käfer is the German word for beetle, so it's basically the same thing. But I've got some funny stories about that too. I guess the bottom line is, if you're gonna drink responsibly, as they say, and try not to hurt yourself or anybody else in the process. Well, you guys all have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.